I wanted to be at Texas State. I chose to be at Texas State. I'm from Texas. That was important to me. I always knew if the right guy got this job, you better watch out.
You better watch out. This is Win Now or Get Bent, episode 164. If you don't already know, I'm Kev Tardello, coming to you on Sunday, September 1st, and the Bobcats are 1-0. And we all feel great about it, right? Right? 34-27 over the Lamar Cardinals. Way closer than I anticipated, way closer than a lot of you anticipated as well, I'm sure. It was a dicey game. Joey Hobart saved the day. Ishmati got in there, 150 some odd yards. I'll have those stats for you later in the pod. But for the most part, I left that one with mixed feelings about a lot of situations. So we'll unpack it. We'll talk about it. Lots to go over. It's not a lost season, that's for sure. I mean, at least we're in a place with Texas State where we are bemoaning ugly wins. You know, so there's that. We don't want to rest on our laurels too much and just accept that. Need to do a lot more, but you know, at least we're mad at ugly wins. But this episode is brought to you by First Lockhart National Bank. As the largest financial institution headquartered in Caldwell County, First Lockhart National Bank expanded to San Marcos in 2018 and opened a state-of-the-art branch on Hunter Road in 2020. For the past 6 years, FLNB has provided a wide range of financial services that have significantly improved the quality of life for the San Marcos community and beyond. Whether you need personal or business checking accounts, business loans, or home mortgages, they've got you covered. Plus, they offer innovative services like video banking, business banking, and top-of-the-line mobile banking app. FLNB is also a huge supporter of Texas State football, standing out as one of the largest initial investors in NIL deals for Bobcat players. Be sure to follow them on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at First Lockhart, and Instagram at First Lockhart. Shout out to Gil Hodges, Senior Vice President at FLNB NMLS number 2475765, a proud Texas State grad and diehard fan. We're thrilled to be partnering with Gil and FLNB all season long. You can find them at 2507 Hunter Road. That's 2507 Hunter Road, or give them a call at 512-504-7422. Again, that's 512-504-7422. First Lockhart National Bank. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions may vary. Hey, Bobcat Nation. Looking for your next real estate move? McNabb and Company Real Estate Services has been proudly Bobcat owned and operated for over 15 years. They're your go-to team for buying, selling, investing, and managing properties and everything in between. Whether you're a fan or an alum, we've got the local expertise and full service support you need. Call them today at 512-667-9129 or visit mcnabbandco.com. That's mcnabbandco.com, MCNABB, mcnabbandco.com. McNabb and Company, where Bobcats find their home. Give them a follow on Instagram, Facebook, and on X, Twitter at McNabb & Co. That's MCNABB, McNabb & Co. on the socials. Shout out to Monica. She's been a Tech State fan since day one. She's been repping the Bobcats for a long time, and now she's teaming up with us this season. We are very thankful for her over there. Check them out again. That's McNabb & Co. on Twitter, X, Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff, and mcnabbandco.com. We're also brought to you by TGC LLC, the GalindoCollective.com. That's GALINDO, GalindoCollective.com, a team of professional consultants dedicated to helping others realize their business potential through people, planning, and practice. Their services cover a wide range of areas such as business strategy, marketing, human resources, and financial planning. If you own property or a business and want to maximize its profitability, contact TGC at thegalindocollective.com and follow their social media platforms on Twitter, X, at TGC_LLC, and on Instagram and Facebook at the Galindo Collective. Shout out to my guy, Rick Galindo, true Tech State sicko, a Tech State grad. He's been with us since last season, back going with us through this season. Can't thank TGC enough. Hit them up for all your business needs, thegalindocollective.com. That's Galindo, the Galindo Collective.com. All right. And one more from our great guys at Chilzey, CHILLZEY.com. Custom tumblers, custom koozies. You can get whatever logo you want. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, Win Now or Get Bent on YouTube, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. You can see me holding up this custom Win Now or Get Bent tumbler that is brought to us by Chilzey.com. If you order 6 or more of these and punch in Bobcats at the checkout, they're $15 a piece, which is a great deal. They also have custom koozies. A lot of you have seen these koozies right there. Bam. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, you see me holding up a Win Now or Get Bent koozie. We'll be handing out some this season, possibly next week. I don't want to promise it without knowing for sure, but we're shooting for next week, that UTSA game. That's what we want. We'll be handing these bad boys out. Some of you got them last season. You'll be getting them again. Even if you got one last year, come find me. If you want to give one to a significant other, a friend, whatever you got, we'll help you out. But shout out to my guy, Dennis Redding, a true Tech State sicko, a Tech State grad. I know he'll be at the UTSA game. I can't wait to see him and catch up with him. Thank you so much for supporting the pod. Again, Chilzey.com, CHILLZEY.com. All right, let's get to these Bobcats. Lamar recap of the game. So we talked about it at the top. It's a win. It's an ugly win, but it was a win. At least they are 1-0. That's the least of it. Before we go through the ins and outs of the actual game, let's go through the scoring. Just kind of give a little recap. I know most of you watched it. A lot of you may have imbibed a little bit, so maybe you forgot all the details going in and out. I got to say, man, we are already in mid-season form on, at least on X Twitter, with the fans. Hey, you guys are getting hot about a win, and that's a good thing. It's not up to the standards. Let them know. Let them be heard. But it's not as bad as some of you may feel. That some of you may feel this is an indicator of a really tough season coming up. I think it's more an indicator of a celebratory off season. That we'll get to it all. But let's go to the first quarter of this game. Bobcats had the ball first, and they scored on their first drive. 4 plays, 68 yards. Looked like the Bobcats that we knew. Jordan McLeod looked like he was humming, especially when he threw a 34-yard touchdown pass to Jaden Williams, the Boston College transfer, local kid from Pflugerville up in North Austin. It's great he was very much involved in this offense. We'll talk about him here in a little bit. But right there, I mean, that's 13:44 left in the first quarter, and they're up 7-0. I mean, it's right. It's a little over a minute into the game. Bobcats already up. They get the ball back. They put together a 9-play drive, 55 yards. Mahdi punches it in. Then the Bobcats do a swinging gate so here's the deal. They line up for this extra point, and they do the swinging gate formation. And if you're not really familiar with it, I'm going to do my best to explain it. So a center lines up with no other offensive lineman around them. There's someone behind the center, sometimes a quarterback. In this situation, it was a punter. All the offensive line is to the left, almost by the sideline. And a lot of times you'll see a team, they line up like this. They wait to see what the defense does, what their response is. And most of the time, those offensive linemen that are all the way over here on the left, they come back and they line up in the middle, and they just do a normal kick. Not the situation here. I'm watching it in the press box, and I'm like, they're definitely just going to line up and kick this. There's no way they're going to pull out a swinging gate halfway through the first quarter of the first game against Lamar, up 2 touchdowns. But they did. And David Nunez, the punter, connected with Connor Fox, 2-point conversion, 15-0. Things were rolling. Things were feeling really good for the Bobcats. The next series, it was RJ Martinez. It was even a quarterback switch. 2 series, McLeod pulled, and then RJ Martinez goes in there, and he played respectable. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't the reason why this game was close. 7 for 10 for 35 yards. Let's see what the rushing was for RJ. 2 rushes for 9 yards. He looks shifty. That arm is a whip. He's got a real strong arm with that ball. He's a shorter quarterback, definitely, and I feel like that you could see that. last night specifically. Even with both of them, they weren't doing a ton over the middle, and you can't really see over the big, tall offensive linemen across the middle, so it does change things a little bit. But so RJ Martinez, he goes in for 2 series. It's a little bit of a head scratcher. They don't score with RJ Martinez in there. The score even stays the same. Bobcats, I guess they got that 40-yard field goal for Mason Shipley in the second quarter. That extended it to 18-0. Um, but 2 series for Martinez, and then McLeod comes back in, and it the offense just looked very different after that. It almost upset the momentum. I don't know if the thinking was, and you know what? Let's keep going through the scores, and I'll get to my thoughts about that one because I have a little prep I prepared a little. So we'll keep it going, and I'll talk about the quarterback. But let's go back to the second quarter. 40-yard field goal by Mason Shipley. He then misses a 44-yarder. Very unlike Mason Shipley. In fact, it was the first miss of his career. I think he's now like 16 for 17 on field goals. He even missed an extra point, a little bit of an off night in a lot of places, even at kicker with the Lou Gorza Award semifinalist, which is the award they give to the best kicker in the nation in college. He was a semifinalist last year for that award, so that was unlike him. But they go into halftime up 18-0. Um, it definitely it felt like it could have been more than 18-0 if McLeod had stayed in the game, maybe another touchdown in one of those 2 series. And then obviously you miss a field goal. There's points off the board, but then there was another deal that I feel like kind of got forgotten in the fray of everything. 23 seconds left in the first half, 4th and 2 on the around the goal line, or like the 2-yard line. I didn't put any notes on this one. I should have. But the Bobcats go for it, trying to punch it in, maybe get another score before halftime, extend this lead. And Ishmati is stopped, comes up short, turnover on downs. Cardinal get the ball back. So it's 18-0 going into halftime. So they're right there in that second quarter between a missed field goal and that opportunity right there on the goal line to punch it in. That's another 10 points. That's 28-0. That's not even taking into account the McLeod aspect of it, of him coming out. If they go out and let's say they get a touchdown in one of those 2 drives, then we're looking at 35-0 at halftime. And that's what it felt like it should have been. When I was watching that game and I was looking at Texas State's athletes versus Lamar's athletes, it felt like it should have been 35-0. But it was 18-0, and then that left the door ajar just enough for Lamar to push their way through and almost make their way into the house. Let's go to the third quarter. After halftime, Lamar finally gets on the board in the third quarter on their first drive, 5-play drive, 75 yards, ends on an 18-yard run by Damian Moore. There were some penalties on that drive specifically. I remember there was 2 15-yard penalties that extended it and put Moore in the red zone, and he was able to punch it in from there. I have had to have mentioned it by now. I'd be shocked if I hadn't, but 16 penalties for 156 yards. Outrageous. That is, I mean, you can hang some of that on the refs where it's they were pretty quick with the flags, but I can't say that for 16 calls. I mean, that's a very undisciplined team, unprepared for that whole situation. So it's 18-7 after the Damian Moore touchdown for Lamar. 3 minutes later, 46-yard field goal by Mason Shipley. He finished the day 2 for 3 on field goals. A little bit of a recovery, nice 46-yard make for Shipley. I'm not too concerned with Mason Shipley, but we'll circle back to that. A little almost towards the end of the third quarter, Lamar gets a field goal, 28-yarder. That makes it 21-10. And then at the beginning of the fourth quarter, a 47-yard touchdown by Savon Ray, who we talked about on the preview episode, former Tech State player, 2021, took a red shirt, didn't play in a game, went to Lamar. He's been a pretty good player for them, was all Southland's second team last season. He goes and gets a 47-yard touchdown. And the play right before that was set up, I believe it was a 39-yard pass to Jaden Boyd. I know he scored later. Yeah, Jaden Boyd. Jaden Boyd caught a 39-yard pass, and then they threw that 47-yard touchdown. 6 plays, 84-yard drive, a minute and 20 seconds. It was those 2 big plays. to missed assignments by DBs on both of those. You know, I say missed assignments, but really with Ray, it was missed tackles. He caught it and ran most of that. So we're looking at 21-17 now, with 13:44 left in the game. On a game that looked like it should have been, could have been 35-0 at halftime. Now it's 21-17 into the fourth quarter. Bobcats are on the ropes. They need something. They need a hero. They need someone to come out of the woodwork and save them. Joey Hobart put on his Superman cape. 37-yard touchdown, made it 28-17. That first touchdown, both of them were all-time touchdowns. And this guy, man, Joey Hobart, Joe Dirt, he's got a knack for season opening highlights. You remember at Baylor last year? That's a picture. It's displayed all over the facilities at Texas State at Baylor, and he's pinning that ball on the side of his helmet. And then he goes and does it again. I feel like he won up to that Baylor performance for the acrobatic abilities on the catches, but also for the moment, him saving the Bobcats. They needed these scores. But let's reel it back in. Let's talk about that first catch. So he catches the ball, and he is, when I say toe tapping the sideline, I mean he's on his tippy toes, dangling off the sideline. And there's barely any green between his cleat and the sideline. He still manages to shuck a defender, get him out of his way, maintains his balance. He's wobbling his arms, he's planting his feet, and he's like, oh, hey, I'm actually secure. I can keep on running in towards the end zone. And there he goes, 37-yard touchdown. Incredible stuff. Blows my mind every time I see Joey Hobart and he's not wearing gloves. It's just, you just never see it from receivers anymore. What some great pictures from that touchdown. You even got the one we put it, I'm writing for the Express News this season, covering the Bobcats. And on the cover of the game recap is the picture of Joey Hobart diving in the end zone. And you see Texas State school president, Dr. Kelly Damphus. He's behind him, like little devilish grin on his face, just excited to see that touchdown because that was a relief. That was great when it happened. Even when that happened, it was like, okay, the Bobcats really needed a score, and then that happens. Like, okay, here we go. Now they're going to start putting their foot on the pedal and putting them away. We definitely felt this after the next Joey Hobart spectacular play with 5:29 left in the game. A 30-yard touchdown from McLeod to Joey Hobart. Third touchdown from McLeod. He did throw a pick. I think I glossed over that while we were going through the timeline of the game, but he did throw a pick, and that was definitely on the quarterback on that one. He tried to fit it in a window that was just too tight. The defender was the receiver had a little bit of space, but that defender was close enough that when that ball started sailing, he was able to just step in front and do that. Didn't lead the receiver enough on that, but otherwise, I mean, I think we'll go over his stats here in a bit. 21 for 30, 238 yards. It wouldn't, especially with the weird in and out deal that he was dealing with. But yeah, this 30-yard touchdown, a lot of it was Joey Hobart running the ball on that one. And the highlight for him, we thought the first one was great. Then this guy catches the ball and hurdles a defender, just absolutely hops him, which is, he's not the tallest receiver. Some might say a little vertically challenged, Joey Hobart, but he wasn't vertically challenged when he jumped over that defender. That was pretty spectacular stuff. Even after the game, somebody asked him, "Hey, you ever hurdled anybody before? Have you ever done that?" And he said, "No, tried it one time and it didn't go great." I can imagine he got hit and flipped over, and it wasn't fantastic, but it worked out that time. They scored the touchdown. Mason Shipley misses the extra point though, and that makes it 34-17 with 5 minutes and 29 seconds left. And that happens, and it's like, okay, all right. Now even in my head. Well, and this is probably the problem that not just the coaching staff, not just the players, myself, everybody watching Texas State, underestimated, relaxed. Oh, we should bowl right over these guys. This should be no problem for the Bobcats. Because even in that with 5:29 left, I'm like, okay, this is great because the Bobcats can stop Lamar and then maybe score again. And then we're looking at 41-17, 42 if you go for the 2-point conversion, and that's a pretty solid score. You can look at that and be like, hey, double digit win. Sure, there were some problems, but now we're all feeling good. That's how confident I was with 5:29 left. That confidence was dashed pretty quickly on another quick drive from Lamar. They started getting those quick drives. Penalties helped them out, no doubt, but their receivers were just flat out beating these defensive backs, safeties, and corners. Jaden Boyd, 9-yard touchdown reception with 4 minutes and 11 seconds left. That made it 34-24, 10-point game in the waning minutes of the game. Bobcats, they couldn't put it away, and then where is that? Yeah, onside kick. I was like, oh, wait, I'm not misremembering the onside kick. There's definitely an onside kick. Onside kick after that score, and Lamar gets the ball back. I mean, they're going to onside kick right there. It's a 10-point game, few minutes left. How do you let him get that one? That was another misfire, another just not being ready in that moment. Fortunately, Bobcats were able to keep him out of the end zone. They kicked another field goal with 37 seconds left. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? That's why I was confused. The onside kick came after the field goal. Excuse me on that one. So 34-24, Lamar gets a stop. Then they get a field goal, and then they do the onside kick. That's right. It was 30 seconds left. They do the onside kick. They get the ball back. They're pushing for the end zone to end the game. Couldn't get in there. Bobcats win by the skin of their teeth. They held on. 34-27 in a game where they were favored to win by 31.5 points. So obviously a disappointment. Coach was disappointed. GJ Kinney, he didn't seem too happy at the press conference. I hadn't seen the post game interview he did on ESPN Plus. I heard he was a little spicy there too. Wasn't feeling too great about this one. And I get it because I didn't feel great. I still feel great about the Bobcats season, but I didn't feel great about that game last night. Still, it's first game, 11 more. There's a lot more football to be played. But let's go through what I hated, what I loved, and what I'm not sure about from this game. What I hated, number one on my hate list, 16 penalties for 156 yards. This was a persistent issue last season. Lots of penalties. We taught when we would talk about the defense, we would say they get after the quarterback, they rush that passer, but sometimes they can be undisciplined, jumping off sides, roughing the passer, things like that. Those were more problems that we saw last night. And it was they could definitely get after the quarterback, but there were other times where they shot themselves in the foot. I mean, 156 yards is 3 times as many rushing yards as Lamar had. So they were given 156 yards in penalties from Texas State, and they only gained 51 rushing. So I mean, you're giving them so much of the field by doing that, and that is undisciplined. And you can hang it on refs all you want, but at this level, the refs they're all going to be like that. They're not going to be, or this isn't the NFL. This isn't a higher league. This is the refs you have to deal with. So you have to play within those parameters. You know what you're dealing with. So you have to be extra clean, extra disciplined out there. Offsides, roughing the passer. Sometimes I understand. You're coming in, you're trying to get that tackle, and those rules can get a little dicey about, oh, is that roughing the passer? Was it still hit that? And sometimes I can forgive those. Sometimes. But the offsides, it's come on. Stephen Parker he looked great. Parker looked great. He got hit with it twice. So he's gotta watch that. One of them was negated because then there was a pass interference. It was 2 penalties on one play. Just more sound football. Just need to be smarter. Be smarter about the game because I feel like they have the better athletes. Can out athlete the other team, no doubt, no doubt. Joey Hobart can hop a guy if he needs to, but got to be smart. I also hated the QB switch. I say I hate it, but I'm gonna try to get into the mindset of GJ Kinney and what he was thinking in that moment. Because when it happened, I was like, RJ Martinez, oh yeah, GJ Kinney did say he wanted to play two. And I looked at the clock and I was like, this game just started and they're not really they don't have that big of a lead. So I got my binoculars out, gotta have them in the press box. And I'm zooming in on Jordan McLeod, seeing if he's got a limp, seeing what he's up to. Seems fine, was hanging out, no helmet on, wasn't working with trainers, nothing like that. So I was like, okay, well he's doing fine. This is a move by GJ Kinney. It was a cocky move. It felt like he was up by 2 scores. So I was like, okay, you know what? Let's get RJ Martinez in. This way we can pull Jordan McLeod and we don't have to give UTSA all this film. I feel like that was the main reason why he went with that switch is he felt confident about the game, 2 scores really fast. And he decided that really tough opponent next week, really smart coach you're playing in Jeff Traylor, and Jeff Traylor's going to use film, look at that, and come up with a good game plan for whatever he sees. So maybe he was trying to minimize the film that he was going to show to Jeff Traylor and UTSA by switching out the quarterbacks. It was too early. It's too early to do that. It completely shifted the momentum. Martinez, respectable enough, wasn't as good as Jordan McLeod though. It upset the momentum that they had built from those first 2 drives. I think he was just a little overconfident in how that game was going to end up, and it was but I do applaud that thought of, hey, let's hold back what we show, and that may even be some of you were asking. It seemed more conservative last night and everything. Was that on purpose? I feel like it could have been because again, for the same reasons, for you don't want to give UTSA all this film because they know how important that game is. And they'll give you the answer. Oh, it's another game. It's we gotta take every opponent at face value, and nothing is no game is really bigger than the other. Blah blah blah. It's the things they say, but they know that Texas State fans are dying for UTSA win. 0-5 versus UTSA since 2012. So I can imagine that is in their mindset when going up against Lamar. The problem was got to focus on Lamar, because in my opinion, is as great as Jeff Traylor is at evaluating film and coming up with a game plan. It's about the execution. It's about you beating. It doesn't matter what they're doing. It's about you doing what you do. So lay it out there and beat them. But the QB switch. um, I kind of understand why he did it. It was too early. But I don't love it. I don't love it. You know, don't think it should have happened. Not that early. You shouldn't have seen him before halftime. I think you should have gone to the second half. Snapping wasn't fantastic. There were some low snaps. Just wasn't as crisp as it could be. Chase Todd, I know center is kind of a new position for him. That's a tough position, especially if it's one that you're brand new on. Because yeah, it is on the offensive line. It is blocking, so it seems like it would be kind of the same situation. But you got to think about that. Every play starts with the center. Nobody moves until that guy moves, till he snaps the ball, and he's taking a ball and he's throwing a pass between his legs, upside down between his legs, and then immediately getting into a car crash with a nose tackle or a blitzing linebacker or what have you. It's a tough position. It's almost an anonymous position until it's not going well, and then you notice it not going well. Um, I don't think, and I'm not trying to bash on Todd because I do think that was his first game getting out there snapping, and he'll get better at that one. That one's not like an issue that I was totally concerned about. I do know that they have a new center. I'm looking up his name, Ezra. His last name. I know I'm going to butcher it if I'm not reading it. Ezra Dotson Oyatade. He transferred in from TCU, came in really late from TCU in fall camp. He's listed as the backup center. I think he has some experience at center. I wonder if they may consider that, move Todd at guard where he's more used to. Um, but I still really like Chase Todd. He's a terrific blocker. That center position is a tough one, but it's one that's very important, and they've got to figure that one out. Literally, like I said, it's where the play starts. starts on that guy's note. DBs and linebackers, I have it under hated. I didn't hate. I hated the coverage. I don't mean to say I hated the linebackers. It's early and they're cycling a lot of guys, and you can definitely see a drop off from Brian Holloway and Dan Foster out there in the middle of that defense. Just not always in the right place. And DBs were getting beat pretty good by a team that runs the ball. That's what we were talking about in the preview. But their coach, Pete Rossimondo, former offensive lineman, former offensive line coach, loves to run the ball, loves to do that, which hats off to Texas State holding them to 51 yards, testament to the D line, which we'll get to the section I love. I know we're starting out with bad stuff. There's good stuff. There's good stuff. Hang in there, Bobcats. There's a lot of good stuff, but we gotta keep the standard the standard. You like that? Stole that from coaches. But yeah, they were getting burned a little too much. In fact, let's take a look. This is one I didn't really look at the passing stats for Lamar, because 51 yards rushing, and then passing 237 yards passing 16 for 34, which is 47%. So that's a lot of yards on 14 completions. There were only 47%. That's 14.8 yards per completion for Lamar. That's a lot of separation. A lot of separation from an FCS team going up against FBS DBs. 14.8 yards a catch. And it wasn't Coleman, their quarterback, Lamar's quarterback. It wasn't lighting the world on fire. You just heard me. 16 for 34, under 50% completion percentage. That was an issue last year. Not enough turnovers as far as interceptions. Last season, none so far this game. Not a lot of deflected passes. They have issues at DB. More so than linebacker. I have a DB and linebacker listed here. I feel like linebacker, some guys got to figure out that position, but I am concerned about the DBs on this team. Turnovers on offense. This is the last thing I hate. And then we'll get to some good stuff. Turnovers on offense. Let's see, what was it? It was in the interception by McLeod, not a great pass. After a really sound day for McLeod. In fact, let's look at McLeod's stats. 21 for 30, 238 yards, 3 touchdowns and interceptions, 70% completion percentage. He didn't run a ton. Does he have any rushing yards? Did he get any? Yeah, he did. 3 rushes for 9 yards for him. A really good day for McLeod. Wouldn't call it a great day. I'd call it really good. 3 touchdowns. It's hard to totally knock a guy, but there was that interception that wasn't fantastic. First game, shake it off. The fumble, Jalen Jenkins, new guy. The Washington State transfer. He had a fumble. It says 1 carry, gained 11 yards, looked great, then he fumbled. That one's not great. They had another fumble that they recovered. Can't remember exactly that one. Was that the Chris Dawn catch? That might have been that one. I don't know if that was ruled a fumble. It didn't seem like, looked like he caught the ball. And it was initially ruled that he caught it and it was knocked out, but then it seemed like he didn't actually have possession of the ball. So I don't know if that's that extra fumble that was recovered. But the big one here, the big one is the turnover on downs that we talked about right before halftime, 23 seconds left in the first half, and the Bobcats are stopped, turn that ball over. I mean, take the points there. You had a 18 point lead at that point, just missed a field goal. Maybe that was a little bit like, hey, we just missed a field goal. Maybe I need to let Shipley think on it for a little bit before we trot him back out there. But I mean, points are at a premium, and I get it. If you're anticipating that you're going to put up 50, which I was anticipating. Remember in the preview, I'm like, I'm hungry for a 50 burger. I had to settle for a 34 sandwich. It's fine. It's filling, filled me up, did the trick. Didn't satiate my hunger like a nice 50 burger would. But yeah, take the points there. Let's go to Love It. Love It. Joey Hobart. I was already raving about him earlier. I feel like I raved about him enough, but it's fantastic. What a superhero for the Bobcats in that fourth quarter. Really, really needed it. He's a one-man momentum swinger. with those two scores. Really got the crowd juice, got the crowd going. That was fantastic. Ish Mahdi, 158 yards. Where you at, Ish? Let's see these stats. 156 yards, excuse me. 28 carries and a touchdown, 5.6 yards a carry. He also had a catch for no yards, but Mahdi he had a nice return as well. Ran it past the 30 at one point, set him up in good field position. That might have been early on where they actually went and scored on the drive. That might have been the drive that he capped with the score. I'd have to go back and look at that. But what a revelation he is. It's fantastic to see Joey Hobart and Ish Mahdi back. It's a testament to these coaches being able to retain that talent and bring them back, and they were able to lean on them in a game where it was it was a lot of growing pains. First game for a lot of people on that field, but those elder statesmen, those experienced players, they stepped up and they really made it happen for the Bobcats. So shout out to both of them. Shout out to a new guy, Jaden Williams, 7 catches, 69 yards and a score for the new guy. It seemed like he was going to be utilized a lot in fall camp. I mentioned it, the one extended practice I got to see. The second play of 11 on 11 was a 50-yard bomb from McLeod to Williams. Seems like they have some really good chemistry. Williams, he's shifty. He seems like he moved into that Hawkins spot and is running away with it. I really like their starters. I didn't put Cole Wilson on this list, but he deserves some recognition as well. 7 catches, 65 yards for Cole Wilson. Really like their starting receiver group. I think that Chris Donnie had that play I was saying where it was almost a fumble or what have you, but he was looking good. Bo Sparks is looking shifty, getting out there, not as a starter, but off the bench. But the starters for these receivers, we were talking about how they're not the tallest guys, but they are really fast and they can catch some balls, and we saw that. I mean, let's see how many catches for the starters last night. 14, 20, 22 catches. 22 catches by starting receivers last night. So they have a really good starting receiver lineup. The defensive line is fantastic. It's maybe I shouldn't say fantastic. I should say something a little. They're really good. We're gonna give them really good because there were some they jumped off sides, some roughing the passer. There were some hiccups with it, but and as a guy who grew up playing defensive end, outside linebacker, I sure love a good pass rush. And in this defense, they bring it. They get out. They're in the backfield. They're getting active. They don't always get there. If the quarterback gets that ball out, he's going to hit a receiver because there's not the best coverage going on sometimes. But man, you gotta get it out quick because they're going to get there. 10 tackles for a loss, 7 sacks. It's on par for what we saw a lot of last year. Double digit tackles for a loss and a good handful of sacks. Let's go through our list of sacks. Khalil Alexander, 1.5, number 22, getting a lot of play out there. Shout out to Khalil Alexander, giving a lot of shout outs. I'll cut it out on the shout outs. Tavian Coleman got a half sack. I'm itching to shout him out too. I like that guy a lot. Ben Bell, 1.5 sacks. Just, I hope a lot of you got to see that I'm not overhyping that player when I talk about how good he is, because that was the thing when he got to Texas State. It was the Bell brothers coming over from Louisiana Tech. You had Levi, who's just a unit. And he's 5'10", 5'11", but he's a solid individual. It's like if only he had a little more height. And you look at Bell, and he was taller, 6'3", and if only he had a little bit more of the size of Levi. Well, now Ben Bell has that size and that height, and he was working this team. They're throwing him some double teams, and he was still breaking through. He got a sack and a half though for Ben Bell. Josh Eaton got a sack. Nice corner blitz for Josh Eaton. That was a good play for him. He also had a pass breakup. I know it's kind of hard on the corners. It's mainly it's not a ton of depth. I really like Mills and Eaton, but that's a lot of running for those positions, trying to keep up with receivers. So you kind of want to cycle some guys in and out, and they can't really do that. Dominic Ratcliffe. I actually got to shake his hand after the game. Got to meet his dad, Michael. That was great to meet y'all. It was fantastic. Listens to the pod. Hope you're listening right now. That's always makes me a little nervous when when player parents are listening. I'm like, oh man, I hope you're not mad about my my criticism or my words. But Dominic Ratcliffe, talked about him moving from defensive end to defensive tackle. He has completely increased his profile. It was good to see him, especially without pads on. And I shook his hand. I told him, I was like, man, you really have completely changed your body to be this interior defensive lineman. He's like, I'm not really 295. I'm like 293, which is, I mean, come on, man. We're talking about 2 pounds there. You're a big guy. No, but he's big, which is incredible. Because I feel like he was like a 225 defensive end type player. This might be a deep cut for some of you sickos out there. But you remember Dean Taylor? Anybody remember that name? Withers era? Dean Taylor? That player, he always sticks in my memory because he didn't start playing football till he was a senior in high school. 6'5", just very athletic looking guy. Was lean at the time, lean player. In fact, was a skateboarder. That's what he did, was skateboarding. A football coach found him and said, hey, you need to get on the field. Put together 1 year of football, was able to get a scholarship to Texas State as a defensive end. Obviously, developmental project. He had been a skater boy for a good while, so they had to teach him how to be a defensive end. As they were going through the process, they decided, let's move you to nose tackle, not just defensive tackle, nose tackle. So this guy was 6'5", near 300 pounds, 290, 295. Just an incredible, drastic change in his body type to buy into that position switch. Unfortunately for Dean, it was like injuries and things. It didn't really work out there. But Dominique, he's done the same thing. Has completely changed his profile, and now he's getting in there a lot more at that defensive tackle spot. Tunmis Adelaide, number 30. I'm probably still saying your name wrong. I need to start saying it right because you look pretty good out there, number 30. He had a sack and a half himself. He's a force coming. It seemed like they would push him a little inside sometimes too. I might be reading that one wrong. I need to go back and watch that game and really look at this defensive line because they were cycling them out. I was tweeting about it. It was a whole new lineup almost every other series. Even within the series, it starts out with 4 defensive linemen. They switch 3 of them out for 3 of the backups. It's a luxury there on the defensive line. Shout out to Coach O'Gwyn, really getting them right. There's another shout out. I got to stop doing this. Um, Emma Polisi Lange, the Houston transfer, he had half a sack, and so did Alex Merritt, the Eastern Michigan transfer. So everybody getting into the mix, getting out there and really doing some good stuff. Um, those last 2 half sacks I said, those are actually TFLs. Those are half TFLs. But still, getting into the backfield, really appreciated this defensive line. This defense really needs them. Because behind them, it's a little. I've mixed reviews behind the defensive line on this defense, but I mean, what a force they are up front for sure. And kick return, I loved it. I love kick return. I just threw that one in there. Ishmati running that ball back. They're gonna sneak another one in. I'm feeling it this year. All right, and then my list of not sure is about how I feel, things I saw in the game that I'm not sure how I feel about it. So Dorian Strawn and Nash Jones switch positions. Nash Jones, left tackle, Dorian Strawn, left guard. That's usually what it's been. They switched. So we had Strawn at left tackle, and we had Nash Jones at guard. And it pretty much stayed that way the whole game. Kenny leading into it, they put the or designation on the depth chart. We talked about that on the preview episode. So there's a little bit of anticipation there that there might be some interchanging going on between those 2 guys, but they seem to stay put with the switch with Strawn at left tackle. And I put it in my not sure because I'm not sure. Like really, didn't see anything bad. Didn't see anything that was like, oh man, what a great move. This is fantastic. I'm not sure if they're just trying to give different looks. If they're trying to build up these players' resume with versatility. I'm not sure, but that was an interesting note to see that they stuck with that the whole game. Also not sure about running back and wide receiver depth. I talked about the starters doing really well at both of those. Ish Madi, awesome, 156 yards. The starting receivers doing everything that they did, 22 catches. But neither of the backups at those positions did a whole lot. I know we saw Lincoln Perry get 6 carries for 24 yards, which is fantastic. Good to see him back in the mix after missing all of last year. Led the team in rushing in 2022, missed all of last year. He got the second most carries of the running backs. Well earned for him. Obviously he's going to take some time to acclimate to full game speed, but looked like he was doing pretty good and he'll catch up. And we had the fumble by Jalen Jenkins on his 1 carry. And then Deion Hankins, he got in there and he had 1 carry for 4 yards. Looked like they were doing almost like a goal line Jamal Jeter type situation with Hankins. Um, why it's not sure, just didn't get to see a ton from them. I mean, because right there, what is that? That's 8 carries for a running back not named Ishmati at the game. So not sure there. The backup receivers, the receiver depth. We saw Bo Sparks, 2 catches, 14 yards. And that's it. And that's the only non-starting receiver that had a catch. So just don't really know what's going on there. We got some guys, Langston Anderson. Let me see. Let me pull a roster up real fast so I can talk about some of these receivers without forgetting them because there's a lot that haven't gotten in there. Jalen Griffin, the UCF transfer, Jordan Martin, the true freshman, Colin Evans, the true freshman. Saw Drew Donley get in there, but no passes thrown his way. Um, Dylan Rhodes, we saw him on the depth chart. Junior Thornton wasn't dressed. He's a true freshman. Cannon Webb from San Marcos, Isaac Norris. There's some players. I meant Langston Anderson, the Oklahoma State transfer that got here late last year. We just didn't see a ton from the depth at receiver, so I'm not sure what to make of that position quite yet. Um, I have not sure with kicking, just because Mason. I mean, check his temperature or something. Is he feeling okay? Missed a field goal and an extra point. Just 40-yard field goal too. He's usually really good. I have him in the not sure, but I'm not overly concerned with Mason Shipley. You got it, man. Focusing on those. That also not sure because they only punted 1 time. 1 punt only went for 28 yards. As David Nunez, so just not sure. Not sure how the punting looks. And then I'm also not sure about how I feel about 438 yards of total offense, which I really like, but then only 34 points. A lot of points on the board. Um, I like that they're able to pick up a lot of those yards. I like that they can gain chunks of offense, but it needs to pay dividends in the end zone. I have that in not sure, but that's one I just don't like. 438 yards, 34 points. Need more than that. If it was a defensive battle and you're struggling to even get those yards, I'm a little more forgiving. But all in all, consensus, the Bobcats spent all offseason eating celebration cake. And they were handed a big fat piece of humble pie to start the season. There's alarm bells are ringing, and it's either a wake up call or it's a tornado siren for this team. It's either this was, hey, this is our look in the mirror moment and fix this whole situation, or it's an indicator of what's to come. I am under the belief that it's the former, that this is a humbling moment. This is a moment where you are reminded that you're not the strongest team out there just because you have 1 winning season. You got the bowl game. You got the bowl win, first one in program history, but now it's time you put the bowl rings away. You put the trophy away. No more celebrating. Time to focus on 2024 because there is a big mission at hand, and there is a big opponent coming up this week with the UTSA Roadrunners. So Bobcats, they'll be all right. That's how I feel. Ugly first game. It's nice to have an ugly game, and it works out in your favor. For Texas State. That's you'd wish it wasn't as close considering it's an FCS opponent, but they got out. They got out with a win. 1-0. 1-0. Back at UFCU Stadium next week. Oh, I know a lot of you will be there. I will be there. UTSA. We're gonna have some great stuff coming up. I know we're gonna be having a TGC ticket giveaway for the game. Gonna have some tickets for y'all. So stay frosty. Stay ready for that. That's going to be coming. If you're wanting to go to that game, you don't have any tickets, pretty hot ticket right now. We're going to have some really good ones. So stay tuned for more on that announcement. Check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/win-now-or-get-bent. We have activated our great intern, Reese Largent, sat next to me at the game yesterday. We're going to start loading up great stuff on there. We're still planning on exactly how we're going to format all of that. But we're putting all our heads together, and we're going to do some really cool stuff on the Patreon after it's kind of been neglected since the end of the season. Appreciate y'all's patience, everybody who's still staying in there with that one. We're gonna be bringing the heat on that real soon. Check out WNOGB.com for lots of cool merch. I'm just now realizing I forgot to put on the Sicko shirt, so I'm not wearing it. I'm not wearing it right now, but go check it out. You can go find it on there. There's coffee mugs, there's hats, there's sweaters, lots of good stuff. WNOGB.com. Check out our YouTube channel, Win Now or Get Bent. Like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Follow us on Twitter at Win Now or Get Bent. Follow us on Instagram at WNOGB. Thank you so very much to First Lockhart National Bank, to McNabb and Co., to TGC LLC, and to Chilsey.com for sponsoring us, believing in us. Really appreciate all of you keeping us going this season. To our great producer, Zachary Webb, he's going to have a great cinematic recap coming for you. He was on the sideline the whole game, working his tail off. We're going to have some awesome stuff from that. Thank you to Zach for always making this pod look great and always bringing the juice with the extra content. And of course, you sickos. Thank you, sickos. Hey, don't worry. Shake it off. Shake it off. That game, hey, humble pie. Be humbled, move on. Can't underestimate. Maybe they were thinking about UTSA a little too much. Could be. Could be. Hey, if you saw UTSA, they kind of did the same thing as Kennesaw State. Jumped out 21-3. Let Kennesaw State get back in. What was that? 28-17, something like that. Wasn't a barn-burning win for them either. I feel like both have that game circled, and we're going to be talking a lot about it this week, so I won't step on those toes. But thank you, sickos. Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate every single one of you. It's great to see some of you at the game as well. And the block party on Friday. That was fun. But yes, all right, everybody. Until UTSA next week, win now or get bent.